9 days. That's how long it takes to cross the Atlantic Ocean on Peaceboat. From the coast of Namibia to the coast of Brazil. Over 6,000 kilometers of just water. No land, no ports. Just the ship, the sea, and about 2,000 passengers with a lot of time on their hands. We'd done long ocean crossings before. The Indian Ocean between Singapore and Mauritius, and ahead of us, 2 Pacific crossings still to come. But this one had something none of the others had. This one had Sports Day. This episode you're going to learn about Undokai. It's a Japanese traditional sports day that happens all over schools in Japan. It's a competition with sports, but also about team spirit and teamwork and collaboration. We did one in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where 4 teams from 4 different colors all faced off against each other in a multitude of different sports. And you will see it can get quite intense. I've also actually spent days rehearsing a cheerleading routine that I had to do for the event. So let's dive into Sports Day. Peaceboat divides all passengers into 4 teams based on birth month. I was assigned to the red team, whose theme was love and passion. For days before the event, teams rehearsed their cheerleading performances in the ship's theater and hallways. We're talking serious attempts at choreography with a big group of all ages. I joined the cheerleading team, which meant I spent several evenings learning a routine with a group of mostly Japanese passengers, communicating through gestures, laughter, and very enthusiastic hand signals. Sports Day is apparently a major tradition in Japanese schools. Undokai, they call it. It involves not just sports, also teamwork and community spirit are key elements. Especially the Japanese passengers were not casual participants. Many took it dead serious. People cried, from winning, from losing, from the whole experience of it. The competition included multiple events. Next to the cheerleading choreography, I also joined the tug-of-war face-off, which is exactly as intense as it sounds. 2 groups of overly enthusiastic people giving it their all to pull the others over the line, while being cheered on by a full deck of spectators. The Sports Day event took the whole day, in the heat of the sun on the outside deck. Our team eventually came in 2nd place, agonizingly close to both 1st and 3rd. The red team gave everything we had, and it was a great experience. Next to the competition, 9 days at sea also offers something else, space to learn things you'd otherwise rarely make time for. I continued my Japanese lessons, slowly, not really feeling like I was improving much. I also kept going with my watercolor painting classes. This remained a fun little break to relax and just paint. The onboard lecture series did not disappoint. One talk by journalist Ito Chihiro traced the entire history of the modern world through coffee. Coffee only grows within a specific latitude band around the equator, what's called the bean belt. The most common varieties are Arabica, which accounts for about 70% of global production, and Robusta at around 20%. Arabica, the premium bean, is increasingly expensive because climate change is shrinking the area where it can be grown. Coffee is believed to have originated in Ethiopia, spread to Yemen, then reached Istanbul, where the world's first coffee house opened in the 1500s. It came to Vienna through the Ottoman Empire in the 1600s. And here's something that was a fun fact to learn as someone who lived in Vienna. Vienna added milk because the coffee was too bitter. That's where the cappuccino was born. From Vienna, it spread across Europe. Coffee houses in London, in Paris, where they became the birthplaces of the revolution. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, made coffee cheap and widely available. Britain, outcompeted by the Dutch, eventually switched to tea, The French took coffee from the Dutch and brought it to the Caribbean. Oh, and the word waiter? It comes from the coffee house culture. People literally waiting for customers to place their orders. Another lecture explored the Silk Road, the ancient trade network that connected Asia to the West from around 150 BCE until the mid-1400s, when the Ottoman Empire limited and controlled the overland routes. That was a reason that pushed European explorers to take to the sea. The lecture also covered something more sobering, the story of the Aral Sea, once one of the largest lakes in the world, located in what is now Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. After the abolition of slavery in the United States created a global cotton shortage, Russia began mass cotton cultivation in Central Asia. The rivers feeding the Aral Sea were diverted to irrigate those fields. Over decades, the lake almost entirely disappeared. What was once a thriving fishing economy became a desert, with rusting ships sitting on dry ground, kilometers from any water. The region also became a site for Soviet nuclear testing, both underground and atmospheric, creating so-called atomic lakes and displacing entire communities. Those communities are still seeking compensation from Russia today. Another exciting speaker on this crossing was Ray Chin, an underwater photographer who has spent his career documenting whales, dolphins, and deep sea life. His lecture on ocean conservation introduced me to the concept of Important Marine Mammal Areas, IMMAs, designated zones that protect critical habitat for ocean animals. Here's the frustrating part. IMMAs mostly exist in the global south. Countries in the global north have largely refused to designate them because the protections would interfere with economic activity. Ray is working to change that. His focus is on making the waters around Taiwan the first IMMA in the global north. A small step, but the kind of thing that only happens because someone decides to push for it. One afternoon, Peaceboat organized something that felt significant. News had come through that a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza had been agreed. Peaceboat, whose entire mission is built around international peace and understanding, organized a gathering on deck to watch a video message from local NGO partners on the ground that described the situation in Gaza. Passengers were invited to donate to a Support Food for Gaza program. It was a reminder that the ship isn't just a floating hotel, it carries a purpose. I also made some things happen myself. I organized a 2000s party in the Sundowner Bar, the open-air bar at the back of the ship. Under a moonlit sky, somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, we danced to the early 2000 hits. Together with another passenger, we set up a vegan and vegetarian lunch gathering as an open event advertised in the daily newspaper. And we were curious how many people would come. One person showed up, but that one person became a new friend. And the lack of attendees planted a seed for something I wanted to try later in the voyage. And somewhere in the ship's buffet, I discovered Laogan Ma, a Chinese crispy chili sauce with fermented black beans that has blown my mind and is my favorite sauce right now. If you haven't tried it, I'm telling you, drizzle this on your food and it makes everything taste like heaven. And then land. After 9 days at sea, the coast of Brazil appeared on the horizon. Rio de Janeiro, one of the most known cities in the world, and we were sailing straight into it. A lecture earlier in the crossing had prepared me for some of what I'd find there. Rio is a city of 6.8 million people, and about 22% of them, more than 1 in 5, live in a favela. A journalist named Shimogo Satomi, who lived in favelas for 2 years, explained it simply. Favelas are places where people without housing occupy vacant land, build their own homes, and form communities. There are over 1,000 of them across the city. I spent the whole day exploring the city, the Copacabana beach, various streets and neighborhoods. The temperature was over 35 degrees, so freaking hot. I got a haircut and found a vegan burger, the first one I'd had in over 2 months, and I'd been craving it. I made it back to the ship just in time. We were 9 days on the ocean, and that sounds like a long time, which it is, but time actually went really fast, because there was so much happening on the ship. I learned about random things like coffee, Uzbekistan's lakes, and also marine conservation. But of course the highlight was sports day. All the energy and passion that went into that, and the teamwork involved. If you want to see the entire journey from the beginning, you can see the playlist down in the description below, and there will be new videos every week. Now we're going to continue down south towards Argentina and Uruguay. Keep following that curiosity. See you next week.